now for Inside Utah Politics with Lindsay Aerts.
Well, welcome into IUP Plus today. We're grateful that you're here. Thank you for finding us on News for Utah Plus. That is our free streaming app. If you're watching this on YouTube, though, and you want to watch us on your TV at home, Amazon Fire, Roku, and Apple TV, you can just search for News for Utah Plus, and you can find us there. I am joined today by Taylor Morgan and Leah Murray. Hi, guys.
Hello.
Scouts Honor? What was that?
No, I just was waving hello to all of our viewers. Hello.
Taylor thinks he's in a Zoom meeting.
That's all I do these days. And it does look like we're in a Zoom meeting, to be fair, with our boxes here and everything.
Feels a bit like a high professional Zoom meeting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very good.
Tell us who you are, what you do, guys.
Political science professor up at Weber State University.
I am with Morgan May Public Affairs, lobbying consulting firm here in Salt Lake City.
Taylor is a lobbyist, not a reporter. He
Don't
made that
call me names.
very clear. He doesn't like to be called a reporter when I ask him to ask certain questions.
We call it government relations.
Oh, okay. That's code word for lobbyists. Got it. Okay, let's dive right in. Producer Peter's here too. Hi, Producer Peter.
Hey, everybody.
How are
you? You might
you?
not recognize me at the moment.
Your haircut.
Thank you.
Look at you.
You didn't say anything positive, but I just assumed from the tone.
No,
Yeah.
it looks fabulous.
I did.
That was
First thing I said,
your
Peter, when
haircut.
I saw you today was, haircut looks great.
It's my quarterly haircut. I have to look good for, the holidays, all the photos.
It was sure.
Yeah. The mop was getting out of control.
It is. It is a slick cut.
Thank you.
Don't infer from my tone I didn't mean anything
No,
about it.
listen. I made sure on the rundown we had time for compliment Peter's haircut.
Right.
So,
Yes.
so I'm glad we're
I like
here.
It is on there.
It's on the agenda. Yeah.
Okay, well, let's dive into our topic, shall we? As news of the redistricting case continues to reverberate across Utah, we've had time to kind of take a breath and digest and figure out what is happening in Utah's new districts. We have seen two Democrats now jump into the race. There will likely, most positively, be more who jump into this race. So far, Ben McAdams and State Senator Kathleen Reeby in the race for Utah's new District 1. What do you guys think? Does this district lend itself way more progressive, as some people are thinking? Or do you think Ben McAdams can really, because his shtick has always been pulling in the moderates in a very heavily Republican district or state, now that he's got some Democrat headwind. How do you think this shakes out?
There's a lot of layers to this, if I can jump in first here. Right now, the Democratic Party here in Utah holds open primaries, which means any registered voter in that district can participate in the primary. Ben McAdams is a very conservative Democrat. A lot of Democrats have already started voicing concerns about Ben McAdams' positions on reproductive rights, for example, on healthcare, other issues where McAdams has been fairly centrist, almost to the right side of center on some of these key issues that matter most to Democrats. Now, because it's an open primary, though, Ben McAdams has the opportunity to appeal to unaffiliated voters and even Republicans in that district, which is a little bit ironic. When you think about the process, how we got here with redistricting.
So
right?
you're saying he's going to pull over some of those folks.
Exactly right. Yeah.
Couldn't it be the case, like you just saying that, previous to this, Democrats had to do open primaries, right, Taylor? Because they don't have any friends, right? And so they're desperately trying to get people to come to their party.
Well, they didn't have to do it.
Right. But my question is, now that they have a competitive advantage, now that they might win this seat,
An
don't you
interesting primary that voters may actually want to participate
Right,
in,
don't you think
join
it's-
their party.
Right. Isn't it
Yeah.
possible they answer your call from a couple of weeks ago and they close their primary?
Yes.
And when would that have to happen to make it like official for this round?
Ooh, that is a really good question. I don't know the exact deadline. I believe that would have to happen a few months before June, before the primary, in order for the lieutenant governor's office to have time to respond to that. I'm not certain about that. That's a great
Yeah.
question. Peter can maybe be researching that while we talk. But
Because I think that frames the answer.
Yes.
Does it right? Right.
that's
So, right.
exactly where I was going, right? That if it's an open primary, I think it does favor Ben McAdams because he has high name ID, right? He's been Salt Lake County mayor. He was in the Utah State Senate. He also served one term in Congress, right? So he has the name ID. He has the broad appeal among unaffiliated voters and even Republicans. Now, if it is a closed primary in which only affiliated Democrats can vote, then I believe it would strongly favor a more progressive candidate, say like a Nate Bluen. And now that we know Aaron Mendenhall is not getting in the race, Nate Bluen potentially would be positioned really well in a very progressive district if it's closed only to those who affiliate as Democrats.
What are you hearing from the party, though, in terms of the potential of that? Because I know you've preached that for decades here on this show. Not that we've existed for decades, but
It feels like decades.
how do you
Well, my
like
team has sent Brian King multiple invoices for all the great advice I've been offering.
right?
Haven't seen a check, haven't had an email or call yet. So
Right.
no response, Lindsay. TBD.
Clearly care what you have to
But,
say.
but I joke, but in all seriousness, I believe this is a real significant opportunity for Utah Democrats as a party to do some much needed party building.
Right.
Finally,
Mm.
finally, Utah Democrats have a reason for Utah voters to affiliate as Democrats, right? They want to vote in a very competitive primary. This primary will be the most important Democratic primary in Utah ever. Why not take advantage of that as a party to build your party, have voters affiliate, and then guess what? Your candidates will know who their voters are.
Do you also think it affects down ballot races in that area? Yeah, because Democrats may be a little bit more energized in that area to get out where they feel like they actually have a say. Taylor, do you know off the top of your head, I'm putting you on the spot, like some of the Democrats in that area, or maybe there are Republicans who hold seats in that area that are kind of like nervous about that?
Well, I mean, this is the core of Democratic support and of Democratic voters in the state of Utah.
Yeah, most of those seats are
Yeah.
already held by Democrats.
We're talking
Yeah.
Salt Lake City. We're
Yeah.
talking the Avenues, Sugar House, Mill Creek, East Mill Creek. I mean, this is the Democratic bastion of Utah. And if I'm the Democratic Party, I have not been relevant in Utah for decades. Here I have a golden opportunity to matter and to voters have a reason to be Democrats finally. And we've always heard from Utah Democrats that, there are more than 240,000 Democrats.
They just don't
There's
register.
unaffiliated voters
Yeah.
are Democrats, or there's a ton of Republicans who are actually Democrats. Well, Democrats, put your money where your mouth is and give them a reason to affiliate. Let's see how many Democrats there really are in the state of Utah.
And I would just add to your question, Lindsay, I do think like the vibe of the party, right, is going to affect not just down ballot into the seats that are in that area, but I would argue affects across the state
Sure.
down ballot,
Maybe
right?
Salt Lake County.
Right.
Yeah.
If the party becomes better, if it becomes more professional, if it looks like it's supporting candidates and all of that it should do, if it has a competitive seat, it should just kind of level up in that regard. That would then affect maybe we get some Democrats up in Weber County. Maybe, right? Like there are other places in this state where Democrats have been successful in the past. That hasn't been true recently. And I think, right, like if you did some party building on behalf of District 1, that might have some cascading effects elsewhere.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, so
So-
fascinating.
Just chiming in here
Yeah.
on that front of when the Democratic Party would need to make this change, just looking at the state law a little bit as it affects when you have to change your registration and when candidates have to have their declaration of candidacy in, right? I would think that Democrats would need to make this decision before that deadline for voters to change their affiliations, right?
Right.
To
yes.
meaningfully participate. So
Is that
would
3
be-
months out, Peter?
that would be in this case January, I think 6th of this
When's
year.
is that the same day as
That's
filing?
the
it's
day of
day-
the
it's
filing.
day after filing. I
It's
believe.
the week, like filing deadline's like a week,
Oh, no,
right?
no. So the 6th would be the filing deadline because it's 4 days after the 2nd of January, if that is a business day. It is this year.
Right.
So January 6th is the last filing day. January 7th would be the last day for voters to change their affiliation to then vote in those primaries.
So it makes sense
so-
that the party would need to do it before then.
They would
Yeah.
need to do it soon so that voters can actually act on that information. The
And so
Democrats would
candidates-
have a close. Exactly.
Yeah.
And candidates would want to act too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So
Interesting.
in this next month, they would need to make that move.
Okay.
Okay, so fascinating. We'll see how that shakes out. But along these lines, Democrat Ben McAdams kind of came out hot and heavy, right, with his announcement. He announced $500,000 that he says his campaign raised in the first 24 hours, a lot of that being grassroots donors, he says. And then the other thing he did was went out and got some endorsements, specifically from Salt Lake City's mayor and at the time, the entire Salt Lake City Council. We all saw that here in the newsroom. We wrote a story about it. We thought it was, interesting. But then come to find out, one of those Salt Lake City Council members tells me that she didn't actually endorse Ben McAdams. Eva Lopez Chavez says she had a conversation with Ben McAdams before the maps came out, and they talked about support. They talked about, do I have your support? I like you. there's certain things, but she says that he never specifically asked for an endorsement. And so because of that, she says that he took her whatever conversation they had about support and inferred an endorsement, and then they put out a post and she didn't actually endorse him. What do you guys make of this? Does this hurt Ben McAdams in any sort of way, or is it just kind of like, yeah, whatever?
I don't know. It feels kind of Bush League to me, right, Lindsay?
Bush
It's like
League who? How and who?
Ben McAdams.
Okay.
Whoever put together that. And I was impressed, because I was like, first thing you want to do as a candidate is like clear the field, right? So if you can make sure you're getting support from other candidates, you're making sure they're not running, there's no surprises on filing day, like all of that makes sense to me. And who he has is, important people in his district. So that, and then of course that should clear the field too, right? Like not just about them not running, but they're not going to be supporting other candidates as those people are making their decisions. So a little bit, I guess I would have made sure in the conversation, or if I were his staff, right, this endorsement or this conversation meets the threshold of endorsement for this candidate.
Taylor, you've run campaigns before. You've advised candidates on getting endorsements. Is it so formal that you have to say, do I have your endorsement? And can I use your photo? Or is it just like kind of like, you have my support, go forth, my child?
Yeah, this is not the first time I have seen an endorsement, quote unquote, I'm using air quotes, right, gone wrong, so to speak. And so because this happens often, I'm always very, very careful with endorsements, right? Now, I can see both sides of the situation. I think what happened here is that Eva Lopez Chavez had a conversation with Ben McAdams before the new map came out. And during that phone call, she expressed her support for him getting in the race. Well, I think the interpretation of that was used a little bit fast, a little bit loose by the McAdams team, by the campaign team who actually created that graphic. I think, obviously, if I were in their shoes, I would have sent the graphic to Ava before I posted it.
To everyone, right?
That would have,
there was a whole,
that would have fixed
right.
this, right? Because she
Right.
would have been like, wait a second, don't post this.
Now, the other
Yeah.
side of this, though, now I agree, that is a little bit Bush League by the McAdams campaign. Not the first time I've seen that, right? On the other side of this is with Eva Lopez Chavez, I think she changed her mind when the new map came out. And she saw that the district was actually far more progressive than most of us thought it would be. And suddenly, because District 1 is what it is now, she made a decision that she wanted to explore running herself. She should have called McAdams at that time and said, hey, I know I told you I would support you. I want to be clear. Get in the race, that's great, but I'm also looking at it now, so I did not endorse you. So I think both sides in this issue could have done better, and I think a little bit of a lack of experience and a lack of professionalism on both sides here. It's not a huge scandal.
Right.
I just think it's kind of just one more endorsement gone wrong.
Yeah, and I do want to be clear that I asked her about running for Congress because I said, the speculation and the rumors is that you want to run for this seat, and so you're walking back your endorsement a little bit. And she said, I never gave an endorsement, so I'm not walking that back. But on the topic of running, she was just kind of wishy-washy about it. She was like, it's not a yes, it's not a no. I'll announce it if I want to. But I've covered politics for a long time. If you're not running, you're telling me you're not running.
Well, and you can see how the endorse was misinterpreted perhaps in the first place by a lack of clear communication coming,
yeah.
right, from Ava. And I get that. I understand it. I have gotten in trouble in the past with my wonderful wife. For example, I've talked about how great a truck is. And boy, isn't this cool truck awesome? And then when I go out and actually buy the truck without talking about buying
I
the
didn't
truck,
endorse that truck.
Exactly right. You can see how a lack of communication
Sure.
can cause problems. And let me just say, perhaps me not being really explicit about buying said truck was
Right.
intentional on my part.
You
Just-
said you supported the truck.
Exactly right.
I wanted
Yeah.
to buy the truck. You didn't say no.
I thought you
do-
liked it. You said you liked it.
That's a really great analogy. I do want to point out, though, that Ben McAdams, I got some text messages from Eva Lopez Chavez in her conversation with McAdams. And he sort of signaled in those text messages that he believed she did a 180 with her support. He even says in those text messages, we discussed on the phone a public endorsement of my campaign that would roll out as part of this extended launch. You asked for information about coming to my launch party. So he's clearly confused in these text messages about her alleged, pulling back of her backing.
Again,
here.
you send her and everyone else the graphic, and you very clearly, explicitly ask, do you approve of this graphic that we will post on social media next week or tomorrow? You get approval in writing before you post it. none of this is a problem.
Right. And this is what I'm saying why I think it's Bush League is, and it goes to my point earlier about Democrats. I don't think they're super professional, right? In the way that they are making decisions and the way that they support candidates. And I don't mean it just now. I mean it like this has been a criticism of mine of that party for a while.
In fairness, Brad Wilson, former Utah House Speaker, he had some issues with his endorsements as well when he got in very early running for U.S. Senate, right? So, yes, Leah, I agree with you. I think this happens far more often in Utah on the Democratic side of things, but we have seen Republicans screw
Have
up.
the same issue.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's the public post nature of it that we don't
I
always
think
hear
it's
about
a
it when it
rush.
happens
It's a
behind
big
the
deal.
scenes.
Look,
Yeah.
this is a huge deal that Ben McAdams has so many endorsements on the Salt Lake City Council. And if he indeed had the entire Salt Lake City Council, that to me that's a huge deal. So you can understand perhaps why they rushed to get this out and perhaps didn't cross the T's and dot the I's.
Yeah.
Not defending it, just explaining it.
Yeah, it's interesting. You can definitely see both sides of it. Before we leave the redistricting hearing, I want to touch on one more thing. We saw the judiciary speak out this week saying that Judge Diana Gibson and the judiciary has received some threats since the redistricting ruling came out. I can't imagine that either of you are going to defend the threats, even if you disagree with the ruling. But what do you make of the judiciary actually speaking out here? Because it's not very often we hear from them.
No, and I think, I think I've said this on the show. It's interinstitutional conversations. These things, right? We talked about this. When the legislature says impeachment, when they get frustrated with the judiciary, it doesn't happen in a vacuum, right? Like in the and a little bit, I think the legislature and the judiciary have been fighting with each other, not over just redistricting, but fighting with each other over issues for the last at least year. We've been talking about different little, spats that they are having. So I am not in any way surprised. The judiciary is coming out heavy and going, please do not say things that someone could just perceive as being encouragement to being violent. How about you not post a picture of the judge, right? Some of our friends in local media have done that. These things are not conducive to having a real conversation about this in the measured way that I think a judiciary would want to.
Yeah. I'm not going to defend any threats. Clearly unacceptable, not appropriate. We do know our public officials face, threats on a constant basis, right? So that's definitely nothing new when it comes to politics. It's unacceptable. So y'all stop it. If you're doing it, don't do it. It's unacceptable. I will say that this judge has acted, in my opinion, not impugning her or her qualifications, but her actions as a judge on this case appear to be very politically motivated.
Oh, no, you're
And
talking about
she-
the timing
the
and
timing, the ruling itself, picking a plaintiff's map. So you can see how this judge is now being seen as a political activist, right? And I'm not trying to say she's not qualified or she's not incredibly smart. She's obviously more intelligent than I am. But
that's not a high bar.
true.
Just saying.
That's true. Yeah. But no, my point is that she has inserted herself into a political issue and she has become a political figure. So to me, I just think she needs to be prepared to handle that kind of a response. Not that she should tolerate it or accept it, but she is now a political figure nationally.
Interesting.
I'm not sure I agree with that, Taylor. Right? So one, she never ran for office, right? She's not a
Well,
political.
she'll be up for retention.
Yeah, but she didn't run for office. Our judiciary, if it's going to operate as an independent judiciary, actually to a certain extent needs to be perceived as apolitical.
I agree.
Right.
But her actions have made that
But
impossible.
you are saying that she did something, right?
I'm saying she has, look, I'm calling her an activist judge. So throw your spears and arrows at me for doing that. But that is my opinion. I see her as a political activist judge, that she is stepping into a political process and making politically motivated decisions.
Is she, or is she issuing a remedy when the legislature didn't follow the law?
The way she has done it and the timeline and the process by which she has done it have been very politically motivated, in my opinion.
But how do you
your
know?
opinion.
That's
You don't
just
know.
my opinion.
That's
That
what
is
I'm trying to get at.
that is my opinion and how I perceive things. And that's just how I think a lot of Republicans and legislators in Utah see it that way.
What if she had a death in her family in July and that's why she couldn't release the ruling until September?
Then I wish she would have said so.
Does she have to?
No.
No, an independent judiciary doesn't answer to Taylor Morgan.
And it's not just me. I am expressing an opinion that many of those who are frustrated with Judge Gibson's
And I hear,
ruling, and
yeah.
it's in my opinion, I think she's eminently qualified. I think she's probably an incredible judge. But the timeline and the process, the way she has gone about this has been very political. Now, in fairness to Judge Gibson, I believe the legislature picked all the wrong fights at the wrong times and lost all of them. The legislature provoked Judge Gibson unnecessarily. The threats of impeachment, I've said it before, those are uncalled for, they're unacceptable, and not helpful, right? So both sides
you're
have acted
assuming-
very poorly.
You're assuming both sides are acting on political nature.
Of course they are. Yes, the legislature is absolutely political.
Well,
and I think Judge
legislature is
Gibson's
because they're
response-
elected.
Right, but Judge Gibson's response has also been political, in my opinion.
Okay, we will leave it there. Leah disagrees with your opinion.
But I love you, Taylor.
No, it's great. We should be able to disagree and see it differently.
Yeah.
And I understand both sides of this argument and the case, and I get it. It's really, really messy.
And it's easy to put those pieces
Yeah.
together, right?
Yeah, but
You
Judge
add them
Gibson
up.
should not be impeached. No one should threaten her, right? But in my eyes, in my opinion, I think both sides have acted politically.
Interesting. Okay, we've got like 3 minutes left. I want to turn to a national topic because this may bubble up over the next few days before we see you again, and that is the potential release of the Epstein files. It appears now that there will be a vote. Maybe by the time you're seeing this, you've already seen the vote and seen how the House votes in terms of releasing these files. The president has said in recent days that he would sign a bill that came to his desk. Guys, what do you make of this? Why do we need a bill in the first place? Can't we just release them?
That is a great question. I don't know.
I mean, maybe we've been fighting over something that we don't need to fight over, but
Well, we always fight over it.
well,
I
yeah,
don't know.
clearly.
Yeah.
No, I think they needed a bill because House leadership was refusing to release the information.
But isn't it just with the DOJ right now? So couldn't Trump just order his DOJ to release it? Peter, we're gonna need some fact checking on this.
Yeah, except he could, but then he really doesn't want to. So what he needed was the House, right? I mean, like,
Okay, well, regardless of how it goes
But
down,
now he wants to, and he can't just do it unilaterally.
and regardless of how it goes down, we may see some votes on this. So this is the situation we're in. What do you guys make of it? Do you want to see these votes? Do you think there's something in here that's been hiding? Do you think we already know everything and we're not going to learn anything new?
we clearly don't know everything. We're clearly going to learn something, which is why the campaign promise, which was to release these files, was launched by the president while he was a candidate. And then no one talked about it, or the files are here, or whatever Pam Bondi used to say, like it's on my desk or whatever. But the big thing for me is like Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene out of Georgia, who I would not have thought there was much daylight between her and the president, is now breaking with her party, breaking with President Trump over her issues with how the Epstein files have been handled. So a little bit, this is I think, kind of a massive intra-Republican Party fight, that's playing out here. And maybe that's why we needed House movement on it.
Taylor, any last words?
No, I just think it's funny that suddenly now that we have the votes to release the files, Trump has done a 180 and has said, oh, yeah, it's great. Just release them. No problem. I think that's very telling.
Yeah, interesting. All right, Taylor Morgan, Leah Murray, bless you both for your opinions today. We appreciate you being here, and thanks for the always spirited and fun debate. We appreciate it. Producer Peter, thank you for being here.
Thank you, everybody.
We appreciate you, and make sure you like and subscribe and follow us on Instagram as well. Inside Utah Politics this Sunday at 8 and 4 on ABC4. We'll have 2 candidates running for Congress. I will tell you who those are soon. That's a big teaser. That I've got 2 candidates. I can give you hints that it's not Ben McAdams. It's not Ben McAdams because I already had him on.
Oh, okay.
So that's the hint.
Got it.
All right. We will see you next time.